Hello everyone, welcome to an episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, we're going to go over Katsu matchups for PQ season. PQ season's obviously coming up this month. I know my main one's on the 21st, and I think there's one more on the 28th or so. But January is going to be like the first month that it's really going to be ramping up. People are really testing a lot for ProQuest right now. So I wanted to kind of go over Katsu as a whole and like where I think he stands at a very brief level. I'm not going to do like a tier list. And then I'm going to give you a bunch of matchups that I think you need to keep in mind for. It's going to feel like I'm like covering everything, but I'm really not. I'm just kind of giving like wave tops. I'll kind of give you like the big ticket people you need to cover and make sure you have a game plan for, and then we'll kind of tier it down and down. So right now, personally, I think people are undervaluing Katsu. I know people are going to say bias or like anything like that, but I truly think like Katsu is a solid deck to run in ProQuest season. I think, at a high level where people are always, or not always, but a lot of times making the correct decisions, things of that nature. Yes, I think Katsu can be nerfed a little bit if you know how to block correctly. But I think at a ProQuest level, I think a lot of people tend to like make mistakes against Katsu. I know last PQ season I placed top 8 with Katsu against really talented players, and this season you definitely can. I think you'll see him in multiple top 8s. You might see a win or two. I think right now in the hands of a really skilled pilot on a PQ level, Katsu can be like low A tier, like tier 2. But and then normal level, I think he's like at the very top of B tier right now, personally. But with Katsu, most people are running the Kitty Katsu archetype. And, I think that's the way to go right now. I think that's the way Katsu stays relevant in the meta. So when we're looking at matchups, there's a certain couple of matchups you really need to know. I'd say there's basically 3 matchups you have to be super comfortable into and have a game plan for, and then it kind of goes from there. So the top 3 you need to have a game plan for are Fi, Iyslander, and Oldheim. Obviously, this depends on your meta. It might be a lot of dash also in your meta, depends on who's playing what. But in my opinion, Fi, Iyslander, and Oldheim, you need to know how to play against to maximize your win potential, especially against Oldheim. When it comes to Fi, I think that really it's a straight 50-50 race. I do think that it really depends on who catches fire first, who hits their Art Wars first, who really has that kind of swing turn that make the game go. With Fi, I have Blaze and Yori in the sideboard solely for the Fi matchup because I know there's a lot of Fis in my area, and the Blaze and Yori just really helps nullify one of his lava bursts or like heavy salt turns, which really can turn the tide in the game because the game's gonna go like 3-4 turns, and it really depends on who went crazy first. So Fi, you need to know, what to block, what not to block. If they're running Mask of Pouncing Links, running Mask of Momentum, 9 times out of 10 against you, I think they're going to be running Mask of Pouncing Links. So understanding based off what cards you're seeing when they're going to make the most of a Salt the Wound turn, and then, just racing it down. But being comfortable in that matchup, knowing when to block, when not to block. Obviously, I can go more in-depth matchup by matchup if you all would like. If that's something you all would like to see, let me know in the comments below. But it's definitely someone that you need to be comfortable playing against going into it. Next one being Iyslander, obviously. Iyslander isn't as bad for Katsu as it is for Fi. Fi is normally running like 9 to 12 blues, whereas Katsu, in my opinion, a solid Katsu build right now is running at maybe 12, 13 blues, but ideally, honestly, 15 blues is about where the sweet spot is for Katsu right now. Some Katsus are even running 17. I personally run 15 with the Blittle package. Sometimes even 17 with the Blittle package. So Ice doesn't hurt me as bad. It's just more flexible in Iyslander. Some of the more talented Iyslander players I've talked to, at least from my play circles, say that Katsu gives them more trouble than Fi does because of just the ability to pitch more and be able to block out that arcane easier. So, but you need to know like how to play around it, how to play around to the best of your ability. Those hypothermias, knowing when to push, when not to push, really trying to focus on pure damage and going wide against her, and just really knowing when to like play patient with her. Sometimes like if they get back-to-back channeling fridges out, it sucks. Learn to play patient, learn to wait for pick your spots. It's something that's really important for her. And then the final one is Oldheim. obviously. Oldheim's a big one. Oldheim's still really bad for Katsu. It's definitely not what it was before. It's definitely not auto loss material. With Prism out, Oldheim has to kind of like pick how they play against you. And I will say it's definitely favored for Oldheim for sure, but it is not the auto loss it used to be. It used to be if you played Katsu and you went up against Oldheim, you literally might as well just scoop so you can like rest for the next round. But now, like, I've beaten Oldheims. I'd say I'm like 45-55 against Oldheims, or close to 50-50, but I'd love to play against some like really, really good Oldheims to kind of get that measure of like how wide the gap is for Katsu. But Oldheim is truly about picking your spots, manipulating against them to know when to push, when not to push, when to force their hand, when they're trying to hold their hand for something big and punishing them, things of that nature. One of the biggest things with Oldheim and Icelander as well is Blizzard, knowing how to play around Blizzard. One of the hardest things for the Katsu archetype is Blizzard, because Blizzard allows them to basically stop like a big Tiger Swipe turn if you're not careful. So always holding like, those two resources when you can in order to pay for that first Blizzard is really, really, really important. So that's just a big deal as well. So those are the top three I think you need to be 100% comfortable with. You know what your game plan is. You've played against that matchup a lot, and you just know how it is. Oldheim, Icelander, and Fi. I think your next tier is Briar and Dash. I think it's kind of like your tier 1As. Briar's a hard one. Briar's honestly been the hardest matchup for me. Her consistent pressure and the fact that she can value block a lot of your stuff makes it really difficult. She's got that Runeblade Frigid armor that everyone else has. Every other Runeblade has. It's really annoying. I mean, arguably, she has, 3 block from Grasp, 2 block from Crown, 1 block from her chest, depending on which chest she's running. It doesn't matter. So, you're at 6 block right now, and then Spellbound Creeper. She has 7 block in her armor alone, which can really turn the tide. But for her, it's just like a straight race. But also knowing when to pick your spots and block out maybe on a big channel turn is really important. But for her, like, every game I play against a Briar, win or loss, seems like it comes down to like 1 life to 0, 2 life to 0, really, really close. But being comfortable in that matchup is really important and something you have to keep in mind. And the next one is Dash. Dash could obviously be in the first group. Now she's one of the better decks in the format, if not the best deck overall, like when you don't account for like specific metas or something. Like just overall in the game, she's probably the most solid deck in the game right now. Knowing if it's a boost dash or a hyperdriver dash, like a Exodia build dash or a control dash, is really important. Honestly, control dash for Katsu, you really utilize your Kodachis to the fullest. You outvalue her by going as wide as humanly possible and basically making it to where her D-reacts do help, but they don't go nuts, right? It's annoying for her to block a 1 power attack with a D-react. But really like not only just pushing the envelope, but being really efficient with your attacks. When it comes to the hyperdriver build, I haven't had much issue with that build. You just race them down and beat them. In my opinion, if they get Exodia out, you just keep pushing. The Tekla Pounder build does suck. That matchup, in my opinion, more times than not, it depends who wins the die roll. If Katsu goes second and can just block out turn 1 or force her to Arsenal and then start pushing, the Katsu wins a lot of times. If Dash gets to go second and you're forced to like play against the Pounder for 3 turns, it can get really difficult. But it definitely is like a fun matchup and something you need to keep an eye out. So that's tier 2. Tier 3 is 3 heroes. And I think these are 3, like, they're not fringe heroes. They're just 3 heroes I think you didn't have to keep as much tabs on in the past, but now you really have to keep a lot of tabs on. Number 1 is Kano. You need to know how to play against the Kano. You need to know what to block. Please be running AB3 for the love of God, if not AB4, if you can swing it. But AB3 is probably what you want to be running. Using the belittle package in this matchup as well is really important. Knowing to like block out Aether Spindle when they present it as much as you can, because you don't want to opt a ton, but also racing them down before they get their combo. You basically have to force Kano's hand and basically force them to have to block out until they find their combo, which is most time what smart Kanos are doing anyway, is block with 2 or 3 cards, filter until they get to their combo. Hopefully by that point they have you like 30 life and then they go for their crazy turn. But knowing like what attacks to pitch for and what's not, one of the big ones is Aether Spindle is a big one. Lesson in Lava is a big one. If it's like a cold one, it's really big for them. Obviously Sonic Boom can be one as well, but really it's just racing them down and being comfortable and knowing when to play patient, when not in this matchup. The second one, and one we've been seeing more and more every set, is Rhinar. Rhinar is just a straight race. It's not that the matchup is that complicated, because it's really not. It's really who gets a 0 first. However, it's something you need to understand and be able to play around. I've seen all types of Rhinars lately, like the Savage Beatdown builds. I've seen the Meat Axe builds. I've seen the Claws, obviously, and then also their club builds. So it's a little bit of everything, but it's a deck that's gaining more and more popularity as time goes on, and something you need to be aware of. And then finally, the last Fringe build, and it's one that's really hard against Katsu, is Lexi. Lexi sucks. I played against Alexi to get in the top 8 last PQ season, and it was 1 life to 0, and I barely won that matchup. It's a matchup that gives a lot of Katsu's trouble. Running the belittle package is important. Make sure you side in D-Reacts against Lexi. I think you have to have D-Reacts in your sideboard as a Katsu in this meta. You just have to. There's too many good decks that you need to be able to block stuff out on. I've seen like the Go Tall Death Dealer builds, but really it's just been the Voltaire build still. Something you need to keep an eye on. But overall, going into the season, I think, yeah, Fi, Icelander, and Oldheim are definitely the ones. And then Dash probably is up there as well. And then Briar. And then I think your 3 Fringe heroes to try to have some type of game plan for Alexi, Rhinar, and Kano. When I say have a game plan, I mean like know exactly what you're going to sideboard, know what your power turns are, knowing when to play patient, knowing when to push. That's kind of the big things. Like I said, you'll definitely see Katsu's in top 8 in PQ season without a doubt. How many wins they get, we'll see. I don't think it'll be a ton, but I do think they'll steal some wins personally. Just all depends. But yeah, hopefully y'all have a good PQ season. I'm taking Katsu to 1 and Arachne to the other. So we'll see how they go. Hopefully I do decent enough. If I do bad, I do bad. I'll let y'all know. Good, bad, or indifferent. So yeah, hopefully let me know what y'all run for your PQ season. Let me know if you're running Katsu or someone else, and who you think the heroes to look out for are. Maybe some dark horse ones. And yeah, hopefully I see y'all next time on TCG Talk. Hopefully y'all have a good rest of your week. And yeah, see ya.